All right, Dale, going live on video. Stand by for audio. All right, good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So today, I'm bringing on a gentleman that I got to meet through Twitter. Yes, people do use Twitter for positive things. And I love the fact that this guy's got a massive following. He airs from Australia. He's the founder of My Disability Matters. It's an online community for the disability sector. And Dale is our co-host today. He's qualified as a lawyer, but he asks that we do not hold that against him. And I have a few stories, but we can get into that maybe during the show. He loves everything to do with France, wine, food, champagne. My fiance would love you right now because she's pretty much yes to all of that. And the most unique thing about Dale, which goes so well with his brand, is that he's legally blind and uses a guide dog named Charlie. So we are dog lovers here at Live the Fuel. So without further ado, welcome to the show, sir, Dale Reardon.
Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on because you and I we tweeted briefly, like literally. I think we literally made this happen in less than a week, maybe a week. And I had on a couple of times on my show another fellow. Basically, I'll just say a guy who's making disability matter, the blind blogger himself. And I think you said you actually were familiar with him.
Yes, I have come across him and follow his site. So, yep, aware of his work.
Yeah, he's got a pretty viral following as well. Maybe not as many likes and followers as you have on Twitter. I gotta ask you. My first question was like, man, obviously disabilities do matter, and I've come across them in all walks of life, being in the health and fitness space too. And I love seeing people overcome and conquer and make things happen no matter what their disability is. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into it, man. You got over 30,000 followers on Twitter alone. So clearly something you're doing matters.
Yes, disability, as you say, is very prevalent. I mean, roughly 20% of the population has some sort of disability. I mean, obviously, the ones that you think of most commonly are guide dogs, wheelchairs, deaf people, but particularly with mental illness, mental health issues, and autism these days, it makes up such a huge amount of the population. And on top of that 20%, you have their family and friends. So, I mean, we probably touch half the population in some sort of way.
Oh, clearly. I mean, so how long, because actually I'm going to go ahead and already start doing some screen sharing because I really want to make sure people right from the get-go can track you down. For some reason, they don't listen to the whole episode. But again, ladies and gentlemen, you can find them at mydisabilitymatters.club. And there's also mydisabilitymatters.news. We'll clarify that here in a little bit. But most importantly, I wanted to go ahead and turn screen sharing on and show off the MDM Club. So interesting how I talk a lot about this show about mindset and the power of the people you surround yourselves with, right? I mean, there's so many famous quotes out there about if you're not happy with what you have in life, change your surroundings, right? Change the people you're spending most time with. So is that some of the root behind you creating a club or a community besides obviously the fellow camaraderie of people living with disabilities?
Yes, and one of the biggest issues in the disability sector, and some research came out in the UK last year from the Joe Cox Foundation, the politician that was unfortunately shot in the Brexit campaign. She found that 50% of the disability population suffers from loneliness. They have trouble for a variety of reasons, making friends. Oftentimes it is public transport, getting out of the house, being able to afford to go out and socialise. So, providing an online forum is a great way to give a place for them to meet other people all around the world who are sharing the same sorts of interests and problems.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned something like this. Maybe not so much funny, but it's just so casual that you went ahead and already threw in there like how something as simple as getting out of the house, getting out to socialize, just being able to connect with your fellow man. People don't, I mean, I only minored in psychology in the university, but I've had numerous psychologists on the show to talk about, healthy lifestyle and mindset, which is something really important to myself and our listeners. And I think people really do underestimate the power and the natural connectivity that we need as human beings. Is that something that you personally had kind of like a backstory on? Were you trying to build a community for yourself, not just for others? Or how did that all come together like that?
Yeah, I've seen the power of it myself. I actually had my full sight until age 17. Turned out to be a genetic condition, Leber's optic atrophy.
Wow.
And then over a period of about 6 months, I lost my sight down, so I've got a little bit of residual vision now. But at that point in time, it was through someone in the government, actually, that I was introduced to another family where the father and the daughter were blind and the wife and the brother weren't. And just spent 2 or 3 days with them and got to see normal life, and that things could still be okay. And yeah, still friends with them now, 30 years later.
Wow. That's crazy. So you had full, like no hint at all of possibly going blind at 17?
Just glasses, because it turned out it was a family hereditary condition. But my uncle, who'd lost his sight, had fallen off a horse and been knocked unconscious. And they thought it was that accident that had caused his sight loss. And then his uncle had a dart accident in a pub, and the dart had gone in his eye, and he'd lost his eye that way. So they didn't realise until they did the genetic testing later on as to what it was.
You know, it's kind of funny you bring up genetic research. So literally less than a week ago, only 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, I did a Facebook Live with a scientist by the name of Dr. Anthony J. And I had my 23andMe DNA stuff done. So not just the ancestry, but the health data combination. And I had no idea. I mean, it makes sense now that you're talking about it, I'm talking about it, but there's so many powerful things that they can do now and like pull out of your genetics. Like there was a specific component that luckily I don't have I'm not prone to it, but there's like macular degeneration.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Right? Like that comes out in your genetic research. I had no idea.
Oh, no. I thought that was just, well, if you got it, you're unlucky. I didn't realize it was in your genes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who would have known? I mean, also, another fun thing, apparently I process caffeine 50% faster than most human beings. So yay for the coffee.
You can hype yourself up faster. Yes.
But I mean, so is that something that, and just for fun, since we're on the genetic conversation, so since then, have you done any kind of advanced genetic research into some of this just to help teach this to other people that, hey, you might be able to figure out some of this stuff or a disability related?
No, I haven't actually. I think lots of people with disabilities or family conditions are still a bit nervous about doing full genetic testing unless they have a reason, because then it's very difficult to get life insurance or income insurance and those sorts of things. Because whilst here in Australia, and probably the same in the US, I don't know, they can't force you to have a genetic test, but once you've had it, they can force you to hand over the results.
Oh. I didn't even think about that. Not that I really care. That's one of the reasons why I did a Facebook Live. I was like, I have nothing to hide. Yep. I usually like to promote how much of a health nut I am and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw it out there. Let's go ahead and get it on. So I'm going to switch off screen sharing and come back to our feed here. By the way, real quick side note, only because I've only had one other, eyesight challenge professional like Max Ivy from, again, Blind Blogger. He has like software built into his computer that literally talks to him, I guess, with whatever's on the screen. Do you use stuff like that too? Yes,
I think from talking, I can't quite remember, he's got the same one called JAWS, JAWS for Windows. It reads out the screen, can read back what you're typing, which I have it set to, and those sort of things. And I mean, if websites are designed properly, then it works very well. There are some companies, and the US is getting a lot of litigation on it, over inaccessible websites. Europe has been a lot worse because Flash has been a favourite tool of some European web designers, and Flash is just completely inaccessible.
Well, it's interesting because if nothing else, not just to help, professionals like yourself, like you have a legal background, right? And you're helping other people.
Yes, that's right.
And it's like, wait a minute, even in the techie, like SEO world, right? Marketing, I can tell you just from a search engine optimization standpoint that Flash does not help you. So there's so many reasons not to use it.
Normally, if you do what is good for SEO, then it's going to be pretty good for accessibility, because if Google can't read it, then we can't either normally. So, yeah, it's like with a podcast. If you put a transcript on the page, then it's better for accessibility and better for your SEO.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm learning. That's why I love podcasting. I learn something new from my co-host all the time. Like, I mean, again, Max kind of introduced me to the whole translation software, which was funny because I didn't tell him that I was doing screen sharing when we did his first show. And he's like, you changed the screen. So I was like, oh yeah, my bad. I apologize. I didn't realize. So he's teaching me to become a better podcast host.
Yeah, Zoom that you use is actually a wonderful company for accessibility. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm very thankful they built accessibility into the very structure of their company. Their webinar platform is the only one out there that is actually accessible to blind people, both as a host and as a user. So
really, yeah, I didn't know that.
All the others, GoToWebinar, and I can't even think of the others. They're all just they use sort of Java applets and all these different types of tools, and just completely breaks the screen reader. But Zoom works perfectly.
So is that stuff that you're teaching us right here now and helping us understand? This is powerful because like a lot of us don't know what a lot of the lifestyle adaptations are. And the beauty is we do have the tech. And I just learned from you that clearly Zoom has embraced, some of that tech to help it make it easier, which I love. And actually, before we even started this show, you mentioned something about WordPress. And obviously my site's built on WordPress. I think 1/3 of the world's websites nowadays are actually built on a WordPress platform. So it's interesting that there's still so many, I don't know, I guess companies out there not, I guess, putting this extra effort in. How would you talk to that?
And the one company that the whole blindness community is grateful to and greatly applauds is Apple. Steve Jobs with the iPhone 3GS way back years ago was my first smartphone. It was the first off-the-shelf device that actually had accessibility built in.
Really?
The iPhone has a screen reader that is actually part of the phone. Before then, on the Nokias and all the other phones, you had to buy some screen reader software that was, $500, $1,000 to add to your phone.
Sure.
But then Apple brought out the very first touch screen. It can actually read out the screen as your finger moves over it. And he has a lot of, the iPhone has a lot of features built in for hearing impaired and magnifying screens. It works with Bluetooth with lots of hearing aids, Braille devices. The iPhone and now iPad and others is, one of the great inventions for accessibility.
So have they grouped a lot of those? I'm just going to geek out a little bit now. Have they, because I'm on my iPhone right now in the menu. It's like, they group them under like one big chunk of settings?
Yeah, under settings, they've got something called accessibility.
Oh, yeah.
And then that has all sorts of different accessibility settings where you can adjust just, font sizes and screen contrasts and brightnesses. And
oh, yes. I just jumped in there now. Of course, that's where I've shown people to get larger font sizes if if their eyesight is starting to go and they can't see small font size. So, wow.
And Microsoft, actually, there's a special award from the blindness community each year for software companies, and Microsoft won their most recent one with an app that they've created called Seeing AI for artificial intelligence. They produced it as a free app as a public service, but also to show off their technology. And it's actually got built in a color detector to tell you what color objects are. And then it actually goes way further and has object recognition. So using its artificial intelligence, you can take a picture of something and it can actually tell you what the photo is and identify all that sort of thing.
It's funny you bring that up because I remember Max on the last episode told me about, he found a company that has these like high-tech glasses with cameras built in. Ira, yeah, like something like that. It was, but basically, he said it could literally. I don't know how accurate it is, but he was saying how it could actually self-learn or kind of learn. Like if you run into a friend of yours, for example, in the street, I think you can actually program the glasses saying, okay, remember that person, it's so-and-so. I mean, I don't know how accurate the facial recognition is, but it sounds pretty cool, and they don't sound cheap.
No, and they've just actually, it is out in America, and they're just introducing and testing it here in Australia. A company, I'm not sure of what the price is because it's not commercially available here, so I hadn't looked into it yet. But it somehow works with live visual interpreters. So you wear these glasses and it broadcasts a signal back, and then they can tell you what's happening and where to go and, where a doorway is or anything else while you're walking around.
That's wild. I mean, that's the exciting thing. And I think, obviously that's got to be some of the underlying principles and maybe reasons for your brand, right? My Disability Matters is not just helping people understand that, people need to respect and understand what people are going through and all the different demographics, not just blindness, but also just the fact that, hey, there is a lot of technology nowadays that could be helping people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like even Amazon's Alexa and Google Assistant and that, just for, people who are in a wheelchair and things to get the voice, turn the light on, turn music on, change TV channel, all those sorts of things that it can do that people think it's a bit of a gimmick, but it can also be very useful as well.
Now, do you put that, because I'm actually over on your other news site right now, and I saw you have like a section of your toolbar for like independent living. So do you write about stuff like that under there?
Yes, we have various articles on news items that come up with independent living. Yeah,
I'm scrolling through some of that now. This is amazing because, how long ago did you start this blog content?
The news site we started in, when was it? April, May 2016.
Okay.
It did have, during 2017, probably sort of 6 or 9 months of really quiet period because we were concentrating on the club. But now we're back to doing regular articles again.
Well, if nothing else, the news piece, and believe me, I got your back. I'm a podcaster. I like doing video. Sitting down and writing blog content or articles, not my thing. I have no problem admitting it. Like, I love media and I love sharing knowledge, but man, having to sit down and do some writing, like, I want to find an intern. That's it. Do you guys have interns?
We have just got a volunteer helping us with the community moderation. So, and yes, we're looking into training them up as well. But I got put onto a service called rev.com.
I love Rev. Yes.
Yeah, for $1 a minute, the transcription is amazing. I'm
considering that for a book that I want to write because I just don't want to sit down and write. So I was like, wait a minute, I'm just gonna speak. I don't know. I already have the microphone. I got all the high end equipment. Like, just record some stuff and then have Rev write it out for me.
Yeah. And then you can, just hire an editor to proofread it and do that part for you, and then it's all done.
See that? It's beautiful. I'm actually interesting. I just clicked on one of your articles. How fake assistance animals and their users are gaming the system and increasing prejudice. Wow, that was just released a few days ago. I didn't really think about that.
Yes, it happens a lot on airlines. In Australia, they only allow assistance dogs on the aeroplanes. But in America, although the airlines are just starting to tighten up, you've had, they call them support animals as well, emotional support animals. And, I've seen ducks and chooks and, even small goats and things that people try and get on the aeroplane.
All right, now we're stretching it a little bit. Don't get me wrong. As a kid, I grew up on a farm. I had some goats. They weren't exactly my support animals, let me tell you.
No.
They were a little feisty.
Yes, they come and headbutt you, I know.
Yes. We don't need that on a plane. But I actually, now that I'm reading this, it's great. This is good awareness. People don't realize that. I can actually tell you, I remember now hearing a few friends saying, oh, man, how great would it be to get my dog certified as a emotional support animal so I could fly with him? And I just took it casually and didn't think anything of it. And then I was like, that could severely impact individuals that you're trying to help, right? It's like, no, there's some people who really do need that.
Yeah, and the worst part is probably wouldn't be as big a problem if the animals are all well behaved, like ours are trained and taught to be. I know when I've been to France in Europe for holidays, It's very common there for dogs to be taken into cafes and restaurants. And they're all so well socialised. You never hear them barking at each other or playing up. But, here in Australia, when I walk past some other dogs, they'll often yap and want to chase you. And, they're just not as well socialised.
Yes, I definitely have seen this. I call them the purse dogs. I'm sorry, purse dogs. Listen, I'm a canine lover. My fiance is a veterinary doctor for horses. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The purse dogs are not emotional support animals. They're very angry little animals. And
those little white ones are terrible.
Yeah, I was like, guys, seriously, how's the yelping therapeutic? Again, to our listeners, if you have small dogs, I'm just saying it how it is. I'm not saying you can't own them. I'm just saying, for me, I don't see support coming from that. I see more of anxiety and extra stuff that I got to worry about. Like our coonhound, he's like a 75-pound animal, and he's completely docile unless you get him around trees and squirrels, and then he howls at everything. But other than that, he's pretty good. Now, how about your dog? How's Charlie?
Yes, Charlie's, 43 kilos. So, up around 85, 90 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there something to that? Do you guys find through the professional training and the support, and especially guidance dogs, is it a breed thing? Is it a size thing? I mean, I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, we've always called it, the small dog inferiority complex. They try and make themselves out to be bigger and more important. Yeah. But Labradors, I find, are one of the best personality dogs because they're happy to play and be interactive when you want them, but otherwise they'll just lie down and sleep away. And they're quite lazy as well, which is good when you're not doing things all day. You need a dog that's not as active.
Oh no, I agree with that. There's a gentleman that frequents a Starbucks that I nickname one of my offices because I travel so much. I have a very mobile lifestyle. So, that guy's there every day. He comes in with his support dog, and he doesn't talk to anybody. He just sits there with his dog, enjoys his coffee, does some work on his laptop, and that's it. It's pretty low key. That dog doesn't do a thing, just lays there.
Yeah.
But that's the point, right? They're supposed to be docile. They're supposed to be very loyal and be there for support if you need them. I think he's a war vet, actually, now that I think about him.
Yeah, and Charlie's, when he plays, he goes to the beach most days and, loves his free time as well. But, at other times he's quite happy to be more docile.
Now, do you guys find, because I'm back on your blog site, your club site, blog site, I've noticed that you have the news site, which is a big blog, but then you have a separate blog section just on MDM Club. And is content like this get pushed through there as well?
Basically, on the club site, the blog is for members' blog posts if they want to write personal pieces.
Now I'm noticing that.
Yeah, about their situation or, how their disability or health condition is affecting them.
So is that something that you find is part of the community, is that eventually people do get that comfortable where now are you guys actually saying, listen, if and when you're ready, please, we're happy to share your message to get the truth out there about what you're dealing with, or maybe it could help other people? Is that some of the stuff that's coming out of this type of community?
Yes, the community itself, as in the day-to-day posts and things, are for members only. But yes, then the blog posts, if they feel comfortable enough, are fully public so that you don't have to be a member to read those.
Well, I love the one title here, Saving Myself by Accountability. One of my old mentors taught me that many, many years ago. He said, listen, Scott, we are all personally and collectively accountable for our results. So whether you're talking about individuals or as a team, doesn't matter. We all need to be accountable. And if you are alone, be accountable for yourself. If you are in a group or a community, be accountable for each other and help each other. And I love that. That's awesome.
Yes, people do find those things are very helpful. Yeah.
So again, there's just so much content. Wow. I mean, both sites, I can see why it's so much fun for you to try and maintain all of them. I'm switching back over to the news one. And I love the fact you have a lifestyle section, you have the independent living section. And then in the other section, I happen to see the menu pop up, and you got categories here from aged care to disability research to human rights to mental health to parenting. And I guess I wasn't expecting this much diversity. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, and probably the two most popular topics are housing and employment. Because the employment, so many people with disabilities find it hard to get a job just through the perception of employers or discrimination or technology problems. I once had a job with a government department, and due to a technology upgrade, their whole computer system was inaccessible, so I got a redundancy. And housing, because people often need modified housing, or affordable housing is a big problem because lots of people on disabilities have a low income. Those two issues are very popular.
Okay. So do you find then, I'm just very intrigued. Also, on a random side note, because I've been doing all the screen sharing this whole time anyway, just so you know, I don't know if you did know that your camera went off, but I don't care. It doesn't matter because I've been doing so much screen sharing. I just figured I'd mention it to you. But
is it back on or?
No, it's all black. So I just figured that it didn't really matter. I'm still screen sharing.
Yep.
I just figured I'd mention it. But so I have to, I'm very intrigued because I'm the marketing guy. How do you go from, okay, My Disability Matters, obviously, clearly it's a brand that matters to you. You're an example, obviously, of someone who's lived through this, learned from this type of lifestyle adjustment. How do you go from like getting this thing going to like 30,000 followers? There's a lot of businesses wish they had 30,000 followers. So, I mean, clearly that's a small testament to how many people are trying to help others, or these are people actually that are living with disabilities. So, where do you think a lot of that spike came from?
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing, I have actually run some internet marketing businesses in the past, and looking at the more make money online, small business online type sites, and lots of marketing tactics in there get old very quickly. People get jaded; they're just exposed to them far too much. But once you get out into Jo, my wife, has had a relocation business helping people moving house to Tasmania.
Oh, wow.
And obviously these disability businesses, that marketing tactics like autoresponders with email newsletters, automatic scheduled emails, people think they're real personal ones because they just don't get exposed to this sort of marketing tech as much. And on Twitter, this has really helped. We use a service called Social Quant, but there's quite a few different ones out there for automatic following and unfollowing based on keywords and hashtags.
Oh.
And it really, I know in the online marketing sector that doesn't work as well because people don't follow back as much. No. But in the disability sector, it has been really effective, and anywhere between 30 and 50 new followers a day. Obviously we post and put out articles, and we get people joining from the website and things as well. But in a non-marketing sector, I think you can do a lot more of the tactics that people tell you don't work elsewhere.
Oh, I'm on your Twitter page right now, sharing it for the video watchers, and the one thing that stood out to me when I first came across you was I figured you were probably doing some type of auto back follow or whatever, not in a bad way, in a positive way, because how many Twitter feeds out there, and I'm sometimes guilty of it. There's certain people that thank you for following me, but I can't always be on there to follow back. It's not a bad thing. Also, depending on what I'm using different Twitter channels for, I don't want a lot of other people's news feeds in that feed because I'm trying to actually track data. So I don't always follow back. But for example, you've got 30.6 thousand followers, and you're following 26.9 thousand followers. So big brands who have that kind of following, they don't normally follow back. It's usually, hey, I want thousands of followers, and I have and they're only following like 5 or 10 people.
Yes, like your president who only follows 5 or 6.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's like, okay, clearly you only care about pushing your message out there, and you don't care about anybody else's feedback. without getting too political. Just saying.
But yeah,
it's very
you're
common.
right. We get an incredible, I think it's incredible, a lot of DMs just with people, chatting or responding to some of our posts and things. And yeah, it is amazing, the interaction. Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. Again, maybe we're geeking out a lot on Twitter right now because that is your biggest following, but certain brands cannot really succeed in Twitter. But like a buddy of mine, Vinny Tortorich, he has the famous Fitness Confidential podcast. He's on the West Coast of the U.S. out of California. And he has built a lot of his viral following through Twitter. And he prides himself. He's like, listen, I hand answer. He hand answers all of his tweets whenever he possibly can. And he's very big advocate for a direct message. And a lot of brands are not supporting that.
No, we find it works really well. And yeah, actually, we get a lot of people signing up to the community and the club through Twitter.
Yeah.
As you say, some brands find that, Twitter's a lot of everyone shouting at each other, but and no one listening. But yeah, we have had very good success with it. Once you actually engage with people and respond to tweets and that sort of thing, then it gets back to what it was designed for, I think.
Well, the beauty is the reason why I was actually going down this path for you, because I'm very intrigued to see if you're already doing this, but the way my brain works, I see this, you have proof, you have success of this, you're giving back, you're helping people, you've built a community, all these positive things. You've already hinted at, besides your legal background, you've been involved with some online marketing companies. And let's go ahead and tie this to the beautiful online entrepreneurial space now, right? There's so many ways it takes time, but to possibly build a business or build something of your own from anywhere, literally from the back room in your house, a tiny apartment on a laptop. And are these things that you guys talk about?
Yeah, the flexibility is so important. I know that 2 years ago, we went to Bali for 2 months and stayed in a private villa with a pool there. And it was just terrific to be able to go for swimming 2 or 3 times a day and then back to the laptop in the kitchen and do your work and, just a really easy, relaxed lifestyle.
It does not sound bad at all.
No, we're going to Thailand in a few weeks' time to do similar sort of thing because the weather's starting to get too cold down here in Tasmania.
I just I was actually already on his show. He hasn't aired it yet, but there's a young guy from Israel, and he's currently in Mexico. So I just recorded with him. I'll be airing him in the next week or two. But he calls his brand the Rich Laptop Lifestyle. So he's an older millennial, but still a millennial. But he's former Israeli military, and when he got out, he figured out he just didn't want to do things the traditional way, and he figured out how to. He literally, one of his businesses, he started by helping people ship stuff from eBay, like some kind of logistics service or something. I don't know.
Yes.
And then he turned that, because eBay's been dying a slow death compared to Amazon. So he started studying Amazon and morphed his business over to there, and that's just one of his businesses. But he's like, listen, Scott, he's like, this is what I do. I travel. I go live somewhere for 3 to 4 months and run my business off my laptop.
Yeah, and it just does give you so much more freedom and enjoyment. That's right, to be flexible, and if we can go to the beach for half an hour during the day and then come back home and do work again. Yeah.
So I just switched over to your personal Twitter feed, and I noticed there's a different @ on here. So I'm going to click on this one. So because I got to know, what is this? You are also a founder of another startup? You're a busy man.
No, that's just...
it goes right back over. Never mind.
Yeah, that's just linking back to the other one. Yeah.
Okay. So here's I got to know, because I got to know. You're co-hosting. So are you still a lawyer? Or because this has gotten so big and you're helping so many people, are you focusing on this 100% of the time now?
Yes, definitely focusing on this 100%. I'm still a qualified lawyer, but I haven't got my insurance paid up, so I can't practice at the moment. Yes.
Well, that's good. At least you have all the knowledge bank to support and protect yourself. So that counts.
Yeah, and it does help to know the basics of business because, even as a smaller business, the government puts so many obligations on you. Yes.
So how long did it take you? Because obviously the MDM club, that's your one of the income streams, I guess, right? For a business, right? So you have a
Yes.
membership platform.
Postage
So
made primary.
was that always, I mean, did the club come first and then the news section just came in to support it later type of thing?
The news came first, and then we started experimenting with comments on the news site on articles, which we get a few
Switch
of,
back over
but
there.
it seems to be so hard. People are very nervous about posting comments on posts on the web. And so then we did experiment with a forum to start with, and then we morphed into the social community, which is, very similar to Facebook in its features.
So do you find that private communities give people a sense of more confidence to open up and get more transparent?
Yeah, definitely. Because one of the things that unfortunately happens, well, with lots of minority groups on social media, they can get bullied, harassed, abused.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
And Facebook doesn't take it seriously. I mean, even when they had a live suicide last year, they only did something about it when there was a huge outcry.
Yeah. How crazy was that? Like, how?
Yeah.
And I get it. Their legal department probably kicked in and told them not to respond.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, I'm not trying to rip on your profession, your past profession, but it's like, I get it. They're there to protect, an organization, but also there's just basic human
Decency, yes.
right? Decency and connectivity, man. It's like, I know you're a successful multi-billion-dollar organization, but it's like, these are still human beings.
Yeah.
Do you ever have this tug of war yourself?
Not yet. I mean, maybe when we're making billions, then we might have that problem. Yes.
Well, let's be honest here. I mean, unfortunately, there is a growth of disability, especially in the mental side. I bring on for the health demographic on this show because we talk about health, business, and lifestyle. And clearly, you have a lifestyle component on here. I've seen some blog articles you have around health as well. And people do undervalue and underestimate the strict importance of really cleaning up your diet and increasing something as simple as healthy fats are actually essential. They're not actually bad for you because your brain is 80% fat tissue. So it's like, okay, well, if you have stripped all the healthy fats out of your lifestyle, it's just one of these contributing things that I've had enough scientists and researchers tell me, like, this could be just one example of why we have a lot of mental health concerns increasing. I don't know if you've ever talked about this or not.
The other thing that's I've seen the studies meant to be very beneficial for mental health is fish oil supplements. Yeah.
There you go. Healthy fats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's, again, fish oils, avocado, olive oil, avocado oil. These are all sources of healthy fats. The most important thing about the fish oil you brought up is obviously we need to balance our omega-3s and omega-6s. I mean, I could really geek out on this stuff. So, but again, this is not even just stuff from me. This is obviously from me. Like, I started geeking out about health and fitness, probably hardcore, the transition from 2008 to 2010. So now I'm going on, pretty much 10 years of actually really giving a crap. So, I mean, even prior to that, I was still a cyclist and I used to teach spinning classes, but I didn't really hardcore dig into nutrition, for example, as a key component of lifestyle until I used to serve as a wildland firefighter. So actually, you had them down there in Australia too, because we almost got shipped down there one time. But that woke me up.
Lots of bushfires in summer, yeah.
Oh yeah, so I used to do that. I don't know if you guys call them down there, but we have the elite crews up here that go into the deep into the mountains called hot shots. So I got to do that for a couple of years. Yeah, it's a life-changing experience.
Yes, you're right. I'm not sure what they call them here, but I have heard of them, yeah.
But again, health, fitness, your diet, your daily lifestyle, those in that role, it was crucial because you're doing 16-hour days on a fire line. You have to take your life seriously. And the funny thing is, that was a no-brainer for me. But then a lot of us on our everyday lives just take it for granted. We just we don't think it's as important as obviously, you're a firefighter. Oh, you're police. Oh, you're military. Yeah, it's definitely important. Well, why is it not important for all of us?
Yeah, and the one article we actually published last year from an academic was talking about how the rates of autism and ADHD are way lower in France and Italy compared to Western, like Australia and America. And they didn't precisely know why, whether it was the family upbringing, how lots of parents still stay at home in those countries to raise the children, or the prevalence or lack of prevalence in those countries of fast food, and that people eat a lot healthier, maybe retarding that compared to our countries. But certainly,
it's definitely you're hitting the nail on the head, sir. I mean, we have, especially here in the U.S. Let's be real. I'm a proud American, USA, go USA, all that stuff. But we have set a very bad example. And unfortunately, once there was actually a great study I read about, you're familiar with Japan, and one of the oldest cultures, actually one of the largest sources of centenarians, 100-year-old plus people was Okinawa. And there was a study where thanks to the influence of fast food, one of the the newer generations, right, the current generation, the centenarians, so to speak, were literally, or the prior generations were outliving the current generation now because of the influence of fast food, processed foods, and everything else. So our unfortunate, these younger kids love the fast food over the past 10, 15 years, but historically in their culture, they never had that. So once the largest, concentration of centenarians, and they're already losing that record in just one generation of time, after all their prior generations. So don't we think there's a problem?
Yeah, and unfortunately, and I mean, I know I face the same choice myself, that I wish healthier takeaway food was cheaper, because the junk food is cheap, and you feel that the other stuff is just too expensive, and you don't eat as well.
Well, why do you think it's so cheap? Because especially things like McDonald's and Burger King and all those places, that is not whole food. If you actually broke up that burger in a science experiment, there's very little actual real food in there. It's so there's so many flavor chemicals, and because here's the thing,
numbers. Yes.
Actually, shout out! I said earlier to my buddy Vinny Tortorich, right? He trademarked the term NSNG, no sugar, no grains. I'm a big supporter of this. I'm very ketogenic. I live in ketosis a lot. I'm a very big supporter of this, and I'm 40 years old. And I CrossFit. I'm doing my first triathlon this year. I'm a huge health and fitness nut. But my point here is, he literally said he never could stand fast food. So prior to like a big endurance race years ago, he talked about how his girlfriend, this had to have food. She's like, listen, go to that fast food joint, get me a couple burgers, but tell them to hold everything. I just want the meat.
Yeah.
And the problem was, he's like, the meat did not taste like meat. Like he couldn't describe it. And a buddy of his who's a scientist, he's like, you realize that what they do is it's a flavor formula. If you take components out and remove things, you're losing their specially designed master formula to get you hooked, right? Like, okay, the burger has one flavor, the sauce is full of sugar, so that's got its flavors. You got the bread.
Oh, even the bread has lots of sugar. Yes.
Oh, it's awful. And even if you had good whole grain bread, which is BS here in the US, your body's still going to convert the grains to sugar.
Yeah.
So great, you have a sugary sauce with a bun that's going to get converted to sugar, and then whatever's in that mystery meat. But to your point, it's cheap, it's approachable, and people go for speed. And unfortunately, that has become I don't even want to call it the lazy approach. I think it's almost become a status quo for so many people. It's like, oh, it's fast, it's easy, it's right there.
That's what I liked so much in Bali, that you could get all their native, their traditional foods really fast and cheap. So you could have your satays and nasi gorengs and all these things that
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah, rice with different vegetables and things in it. Yeah.
See, there you go. You just made a very good point, right? Good whole food can be fast and easily accessible, right? It's just you have to at least try it. Like, for example, earlier today, when I interviewed the gentleman, actually, you might have heard of him. He's a famous professor, Timothy Noakes. He was he's been clear for about a year, but the government tried taking his doctoral license away and putting him in jail because, as an MD, and this happens in this country too, they don't want you talking about nutrition, or because that's for a dietitian or a nutritionist to discuss.
Actually, we started prosecuting a doctor last year telling people not to have sugar.
Talk about Dr. Fettke.
I'm not sure which one, but
he's from your country.
Not qualified to talk about those issues, and just ridiculous. Who else is? Yeah.
Well, I literally think, because, actually, he brought him up on today's call. So Dr. Fettke is from Tasmania.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they did silence him, and to the point where their blog has been rebranded into his wife's name. So because she's like, due to him being silenced, she's taken over the blog. And I'm like, really? You could do that? Like, I didn't know. You're the legal guy. I didn't know you could silence somebody so bad that he can't even write his own blog anymore.
Yeah, I guess the threat is, if you want to keep doing that, then we're going to stop you being a doctor. So,
well, yeah. It's and that's sad, because I was like, wait a minute, guys. I can't tell you how many MDs I've interviewed and talked to, right? So, okay, let me get this straight. You don't want to trust a doctor who actually is trying to care about nutrition, but you want to trust the doctors who don't care about nutrition and just push drugs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find where that makes any sense.
That's right. And some of these things, like less or no sugar, it's just such common sense and highly supported by research. Yeah.
Well, and this guy, again, it's Gary Fettke, and his Twitter, if you want to follow him, is @fructose_no. So obviously, no sugar, fructose no. Yeah. And he's not as big as you. He's got 16,000 followers. But that's going pretty strong. But he's a silenced orthopedic surgeon for advocating for real food. He was advocating for healthy, eating advocate, but he authored a book about it, everything, because the issue was, he's an orthopedic surgeon. So he got tired of cutting people's limbs off due to diabetes.
Well, and other orthopedic would have knee and hip replacements because of being fat. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, wait a minute. You got a doctor who literally does not want to cut you open. He doesn't want to cut your limbs off. He wants you to save your limbs. And then he gets silenced because he's actually helping people cure diabetes, but that's against the rules.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. Even though you saved that person's foot, that's great, but you're not legally allowed to talk about that. So we're going to silence you. It just blows my mind.
Yes, it is crazy.
But and how's that going to help people that you're trying to help, right? How many people are in your community looking for help? And
diabetes is, used to be, it may still be the leading cause of blindness in, mature people. Because when diabetes is uncontrolled or, varies a lot, it, causes people to lose their eyesight.
See, I take this very seriously. My father is a type 2 diabetic, and he wasn't always a type 2 diabetic. That came probably between 8 and 10 years ago due to his lifestyle shift. And again, I hint earlier how I grew up on a farm. So I'm Mr. Eggs and bacon every single day guy these days, right? And I was like, Dad, just go back to the way you fed us when we were kids and you'll be fine.
And some exercise like you used to do back then. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Obviously, but here's the thing though. I will say, if your diet is a mess, exercise is actually a terrible way to lose weight, because it's just a never-ending cycle, and you can't out-exercise a bad diet. The famous Vinny, again from Fitness Confidential, he speaks on stage with us all the time. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. It's like you're on a hamster wheel, expecting something to change. So,
Yeah.
and back to
And
your point, diabetes needs to be taken seriously.
I remember watching, I forget what it was called, but by a famous documentary guy in the US who ate McDonald's 3 meals a day for 30 days.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, I
Oh,
can't
that was
remember.
a viral show.
Yeah, but his health, I mean, it did his blood test at the end and he was just so sick. Yeah.
Well, so there's a test I'm going to be doing later now that I got the 23andMe done. And you can do, I don't know if you know this, you can actually get genetic research done on your cells to determine how old you are at the cellular level. So if you are a health nut and you're doing everything right, let's say you're 50, your cells might actually be 40.
Yep.
But then here's the flip on that. I guarantee you, if that guy would have done a before and after test after doing that, I guarantee you at the cellular level that he advanced his aging, because that could not have ended up well.
No, he said it took him quite a few months to get healthy again, to get all the toxins out of his body.
Oh yeah, I mean
three meals a day of
I'll be doing nutritional cleansing over the next 2 days. So I'll be fasting for the next 2 days. I do this I do at least 4 times a year. I do this, and because I have a CrossFit competition coming up this weekend, so I'm like, hey, you know what? I got to travel for the next 2 days anyway. And I've been doing this since 2010. So I'm very adapted. It's very easy for me to bang out a full-blown fast whenever I need to. So I do this because it's a detox cycle for me, man. I want to push out. Because here's the thing. People are like, well, how do you have toxins? You're a health nut. I said, listen, your liver, your kidneys, they do as best as they can. I can't change the fact that I'm breathing in toxic air from time to time. My water's not always perfect. And I mean, I'm trying to source my food as best as possible. So either way, we all are still taking in toxins.
Yes.
It's just, and most people aren't healthy enough for your body's natural detoxification process is beat down. So that's why I'm a huge supporter on teaching people about proper fasting, nutritional cleansing, things of that nature, because it's just become part of my maintenance. I just once a quarter, let's go ahead and go all in.
Yes, I couldn't starve myself for a couple of days.
Well, the funny thing is, it's actually goes way back to Paleolithic times. I mean,
yes.
What beauty is it triggers your body during that brief period to focus on attacking its stores in the fat cells, releasing the toxins that are stored in your fat cells, because your fat cells are designed to protect you. So whatever your system can't filter out of the blood, it gets stored in your fat, because your fat's like, hey, it's okay, I'm here to protect you. A lot of people think obesity and a lot of weight gain, they think it's calories. I'm like, no, my dad doesn't overeat. That's inflammation. That's inflammation from your body's response trying to fight a disease. And your body can actually store those toxins if it can't get them all out. And there's something called visceral fat. And visceral fat is what collects around your organs. That's what gives you, literally, I love my dad. But like, Dad, you eat the trucker belly? That's not actually a cool thing. Like the whole big belly rubbing against the steering wheel. Like, Dad, that is your body needed room to stick that fat, and the fat collects around your organs. It pushes your organs out of their natural position and gives you that bulbous look, and that can go away. Like I've actually helped him drop a few years ago when he actually listened to me. He dropped 30 pounds over 60 days, and we got him down to where he's on just one diabetic medication. So my master plan is little by little. It's like I want to get him off the drugs, but it's hard helping the people closest to you. I'm sure you've come across this in your brand and what you do. Like, you got to be careful in how you try and help people.
Indeed.
So do you find this is something that is coming up more and more in your community? So people are hearing this, listening to this, or they know somebody living with a disability. Is this some of the topics that are coming up in your private forum, in that private community?
Yeah, certainly mental health things, and whatever the cause might be, it is just staggering how many people have multiple disabilities, because they might get their primary one and then quite often they develop depression or anxiety because of the effect on themselves or how society treats them. And yes, they need to work on that as well.
Well, I take that seriously as well. It's not just about, hey, I'm transparent. I mean, whether my family likes it or not, I think people need to understand that even though, I'm Mr. Health Nut and I don't need to go to a doctor and I blah, blah, blah. I don't come from perfect genetics either.
Yeah.
You know, my own sister has had, you know, bouts of battling depression over the years. And so I got type 2 diabetes on the father's side. I got my own sister with you know, depression. I lost a grandmother that I ever knew, my mother's mother. She had a period of depression. Maybe there's something there genetically. I don't know, but people need to understand that it's okay. You're not alone.
Yes, that's right. It's okay to talk to others, reach out, ask for help. Yeah.
And then, heck, go online. Go join the MDM club, man. You got a nice private community here. People can, I don't want to say the term hide out, but it's like, okay, get yourself into a comfortable place where you're surrounded by like-minded people that are all working together to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a couple of people that we tried to get some funding from different bodies have raised the topic of it, you know, being a segregated community, and they looked at it in a bad way. But I don't view it as any different to, you know, I'm, as I said, a wine or a French aficionado. I hang out in communities with similar interests, and, you know, people hang out in fishing or shooting or you know, sporting communities. It's just, you know, we all have a common issue, and you know, talking about some of the problems we face, I don't think that's bad at all.
Well, I fully support it. I think it's wonderful because there's a famous quote by Jim Rohn, and again, that guy left behind so much wisdom, great thoughts, great quotes over the years, and one of his is basically, maybe not verbatim, but you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, okay, you're not happy with what you're at, and maybe you can't get out of the house. Maybe you can't physically go meet better people to surround yourself with the right mindset. Then get into these communities that do have the right mindset. Build your own little inner circle of influence to help you grow and develop a better life.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's how we can help, by providing that peer support rather than, you know, peer attack that you might get elsewhere. Yes,
exactly. I mean, and lovely. I'm looking at different hashtags on your site, obviously just from popular topics, but you guys are talking about anxiety, autism, depression, all forms of disability. You guys are definitely trying to inspire people in here. You definitely are doing a lot with mental illness, mental health. I love this hashtag, no judgment zone. Thank you.
Yes.
That's perfect. You know, I like this project. I am not ashamed.
Yeah, that's a new member in the last couple of weeks has started that up. I was trying to.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Be more open and talk, without feeling they're being judged. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Well, listen, this has been a long and powerful show. We're hitting that 1 hour mark.
Okay.
This has been, I know, right? Time flies.
Yeah.
So we've hit on mydisabilitymatters.club. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're listening in here. All this stuff will be linked on the blog show. It's like I always do. So don't worry. You won't worry about, if you don't want to write it down, fine. Go to livethefuel.com. You'll see all this. But anyway, mydisabilitymatters.news. Okay, even more robust blog knowledge. Besides, I love the fact on the club site you have members sharing their stories. That's so transparent and so amazing. That shows how powerful your community is if they're willing to get their message out there like that. That's wonderful. And then obviously, Twitter, okay? Because the guy's got a ridiculous following on here. Over 30,000 followers. Follow him at AUD, as in disability. AU, disability, as in Australia. It's really easy. It's not rocket science. Or just search for My Disability Matters as well. But, you know, Dale, I give my co-host the final words of the show. And this is, you're doing such great work here. Your brand already pretty much speaks for itself. But is there an all-encompassing message that's like summing up everything you're doing right now, or maybe where you guys are going with this brand and this community that you say, you know what, everybody forgets everything else you said on the show. This is something that you want to make sure that they don't forget and they understand about you and your organization.
I suppose the phrase that I put on my form when I was talking with you about just never give up, that often, you know, it does feel bad and that society's treating you a bit worse or you're in a bad position, but, you know, just push forward, keep trying, and things will get better, and come and meet people of a like mind and get some support.
I love that. I think the key word there was support.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to give you a proper goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been screen sharing the heck out of this guy's brand, his site. Go visit it. Go like it. Go follow it. Each and every one of us, deep down, I'm sure if you dug deep enough in your circles of influence, we all know somebody with some level or some impact in the world of disability. So please, not just their disability, but maybe your own future disability down the road. God forbid that ever happens, but disability does matter. And his brand, My Disability Matters, is helping make a difference. I love it. That's why I brought him on the show for you all today. Dale, it's been a blast. Again, hang tight. I'll give you a proper goodbye off the air. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in to another Live the Fuel podcast show. Again, we talk about health, business, and lifestyle. I think we hit on all of that today. So thanks for tuning in. Again, check out his page on livethefuel.com once we've aired it. And again, you too can live the fuel. We'll talk to you guys again soon. And you're free of the pod.
Okay.
So I hope you had some fun. And like I said, don't worry about the camera thing because I've just been screen sharing the whole time.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
Not a big deal to me.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Once let me know or I'll see it come out and obviously share it as well.
Oh, yes. I release the day of the show release. I email my co-host saying, hey, here's the links. There's a short link and a standard long URL link. And then if people beat me to the social media stuff, which actually that happened today. The episode I aired today, I sent them the email and they already had it blasted across Instagram, Facebook, and everything. I'm like, okay, so now I will share their posts instead to respect cross-pollination. I don't always want to be creating the post. I tell people like, hey, you beat me to the punch? Great. I'd rather share your post so it attracts people back to your brand and your pages. So anyway, I hope you had fun.
Yes, indeed. Look forward to it.
Well, again, thanks for tuning in, sir, and thanks for coming on the show. And I hope I honored you and your brand. And I love what you're doing. Thank you for this because
thanks indeed.
I'm going to send this on to some people I know.
Okay, thanks very much, sir.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.